message and sent it off by clipper plane today. Oh, what a wonderful message. Now let me tell you what it had to say. It just said, thanks, Mr. Roosevelt, it's swell of you for the way you're helping us to carry on. You'll see the British Empire smiling through when these dark and stormy days are gone. And Franklin by the...
On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland.
But I know
Subsequent declarations of war were declared by France and the United Kingdom. From late 1939 to early 1941, in a series of campaign and treaties, Germany conquered or controlled much of continental Europe.
Till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away.
The refugees permitted and elected to come to the United States were to embark on a 17-day trip on the ship the Henry Gibbons across the Atlantic Ocean. After the 17 days, they finally arrived at the free port of Oswego.
The war's youngest refugees arrive in America to begin life anew. Wanderers upon the face of the earth, they come from Poland, from Czechoslovakia, from Spain, some even from Germany, and all are made welcome. Today, under auspices of the United States Committee for the Care of European Children, they finally reach a haven of safety. The Red Cross meets hungry stomachs with food and fresh milk, a language that any child understands. Yes, after months of an insufficient diet, this to them is truly the promised land.
Fort Ontario Emergency Refugee Shelter, also known as Safe Haven, located in Oswego, New York, was the first and only refugee established during World War II. From 1944 to 1945, the shelter housed almost 1,000 European refugees, predominantly of Jewish descent. Located on the border of Fort Ontario is the Safe Haven Museum and Education Center. Here can be found not only the names of every single person, but the history regarding their entrance to the United States.
I'm George Damas, and I'm the president of the Safe Haven Holocaust Museum Board. The Safe Haven Museum has been since the year 2000. And it was started through the efforts of Mayor John Sullivan at the time and Dr. Will Shum. And it's fitting that the building that we're in is the administration building that the refugees knew when they came over here. 982 refugees came over, and maybe we think we found 3 or 4 more that were not recorded for some reason. But 982, they were, and really it was a token number. Rabbi Stephen Wise went to President Roosevelt and just pleaded with him to do something to save some of the people from the horrors of the Holocaust. And so President Roosevelt, through, I'm sure, the influence of Mrs. Roosevelt, decided that he'd bring some over. Well, her role was great support for the refugees and that the United States government do something. You know, of course, she was very influential with her husband, the president, and so she's the one that really picked up the ball and got it rolling.
I'm very glad to be able to take part in this celebration in St. Louis on Human Rights Day. Ever since the Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was passed in Paris in 1948 on December the 10th, we have fostered the observance of this day not only in the United States, but throughout the world. The object is to make people everywhere conscious of the importance of human rights and freedoms. The reason for that is that these are spoken of and emphasized in the Charter of the United Nations, and the Declaration was written to elaborate the rights already mentioned in the Charter, and to emphasize also for all of us the fact that the building of human rights would be one of the foundation stones on which we would build in the world an atmosphere in which peace could grow. For that reason, all over the world, we've encouraged the associations for the United Nations to observe a whole week before United Nations Day comes around to explain United Nations.
The refugees were chosen through an application process, and again, many applied. The word spread throughout Europe that there was an opportunity to come to America. They were to meet in a port there in Italy, and from where they would depart, embark to America. President Roosevelt, in bringing them over, to bypass Congress and the red tape, he had them sign a document, the refugees sign a document that they must return to their homes in Europe after the war was over. President Roosevelt, he said, we want to bring the cream of the crop over. And so very creative people came over, artists and doctors and attorneys were among the ones that did come over, and we really benefited from that. So President Truman had buses brought into the fort, and we have some of their passes that they took that day to, and what bus they were assigned to, and they went to Buffalo and across the Peace Bridge, had visas stamped, and then they were brought back across the United States, and they had entered legally and according to the immigration laws, and then they could apply for American citizenship. Because the immigration, at that time was limited. So when they got to Hoboken, when the ship Henry Gibbons came into Hoboken, New Jersey, as it came in, they saw this train that was taking them to Oswego. Well, that sent up a red flag because it was the trains that took them to the concentration camps. And then when they arrived in Oswego, at the fort, they saw the fence. You see, there was a fence around the fort with barbed wire that was not put up for the refugees that had just been here. And so Miss Gruber had to explain to them that it was a safe place, that it was the fence was to help them with a quarantine, because they had to be quarantined for a few days before they could go out into Oswego. So they as I say, they made their homes here, and they had classes on hairdressing and so forth for the women, and cooking and things, and some people came in from the community to help. The refugees, after they left here, went on to do great and good things for this country because they appreciated it so much. One was involved in developing the CAT scan. One helped develop the Polaris missile. We had to put things in priority. And I remember at the reunion here in June, one of the visitors from, I don't know, she was from Oswego or wherever, and she says, "Oh, but it was so cold here, you see, in Fort." And then one of the refugees says, "Cold? We were free. Yeah, we had beds. We had sheets on the bed, you see."